Hello, everybody. I'm Richard Moore. This is Richard Moore in Depth. It is Wednesday, November 17th. I had planned to talk about guidance documents today, but I'm going to put that off for a day because there's something else I want to talk about, and that is the authoritarian mindset of the liberal left. I want to tell two tales of authoritarianism from the liberal crypt, as the headline suggests. And what these two tales suggest is that all these mandates that liberals want, all vaccine mandates, mask mandates, all these things, not about the science after all. Now, granted, these tales are anecdotal. I'm talking about two friends that I had recent conversations with. I've known these friends for years. They are both liberal. They are both educated. They are both relatively affluent. They do not know each other, and they live in different parts of the country. So I was having a conversation with the first friend, maybe I should say former friends. I was having this conversation with the first friend, and the subject of mask mandates came up. And my friend said, I believe there should be a federal mask mandate so that everybody has to wear a mask when they go into a public building. Public building meaning not just government buildings, but commercial buildings, grocery stores, retail outlets where the public shops. And I was all prepared to argue the science about that. But as it turned out, I didn't have to because it wasn't about the science. My friend said, the science doesn't matter. The problem in this country is that people aren't kind. And I wondered what in the world my friend meant. And my friend said, when you go into a store, a grocery store, and you don't put on a mask, you're making a lot of people uncomfortable. You're not being kind, and you should be kind and put on a mask for their sake. And if you're not going to be kind, then the federal government should compel you to do so. Well, I was absolutely floored by that argument, but it resurfaced again in a conversation I had with my second former friend, I guess. Again, the subject of masks came up broadly, but this time more in the setting of should children be masked in school. My friend was all for that. And again, it wasn't about the science. My friend said, I don't care about the science. I haven't done the research. And this was in response to when I said, well, children are not good vectors of the virus, and the virus poses virtually no risk to them. My friend said, I don't care about the science. I haven't done the data. And then my friend said this in these words, I am closed minded on this. It was end of story. That's the way my friend felt. For some reason, the fact that there were no mask mandates in schools offended my friend, made my friend feel uncomfortable, and my friend believed that those mandates should be in place, whether they were constitutional or not. And the same for my first friend. Now, I have to tell you, I believe that these are not positions based on what's best in the public interest, not based on public policy. They're coming from inside them. Something about going into a store unmasked or children in a school unmasked offends them, makes them feel personally uncomfortable, and therefore they want the government to take action. Now, the closest I can come to this sort of thinking goes back to my childhood. It goes back to the days of segregation. I grew up in the Deep South in the late 50s and early 60s when segregation was still in place. White people felt uncomfortable and were offended that Black people, people of color in general, wanted to shop in the same stores as they did, wanted to worship in the same places that they did, wanted to swim in the same swimming pools. And so what they felt was that these people of color should be kind. They should have a kindness and just choose not to shop in places where white people shopped because it made them feel uncomfortable. And so when that didn't happen, when they continued in their ways to insist that they had a right to do so, to shop in these places, to worship in these places, to go to school in the same places, then the state and local governments passed laws that protected the feelings of the white people. Now, the federal government ultimately stepped in, of course. We had civil rights legislation, and the federal government said, you may be offended, but everybody has constitutional rights, and everybody must be able to exercise those constitutional rights. And we had the end of de jure segregation in the Deep South. These days, the federal government is taking the opposite tack. These days, the federal government is saying, well, no, constitutional rights don't matter. What matters is that the constituencies that support us are offended by these actions, and so therefore we're going to put these mandates in place. Now, that works for those constituencies, but it works only so long as, for like my two friends, the people in power are the people who agree about what's offensive and what is not, what makes them feel uncomfortable and what is not. When somebody else comes into power and decides what my two friends think is should be able to be they should be able to do, but the people in power then think that they should not be able to do it, I wonder how they're going to feel about constitutional rights then. Now, again, it's only anecdotal, but I think this provides a window into the modern mindset. It's not about public policy or science, it's about identity politics and what makes certain constituencies comfortable or uncomfortable, or what they feel is what they're offended by. It's pure identity politics. The problem is, as my friend said, they're closed minded. We could argue and discuss civil liberties and how they could be in danger if other people come into power. We can argue that all day long, and it's not going to change their minds. We have to be active. We have to resist. We certainly can't count on the courts. Maybe the courts will rule in favor of the Constitution and civil liberties, but perhaps they won't. The one thing we know we can do is take advantage of the 2022 elections and 2024 elections and vote these people out and vote for candidates who sometimes we may not agree with them out there. Sometimes they're very good pro democracy liberals out there. We have to vote for candidates who, first and foremost, will defend civil liberties and will defend the Constitution of the United States. Right now, the federal government will not. I hope everybody has a great day, and I'll be back later. This is Richard Moore in Depth.